All right, Rob, we talked about the big blockbuster NBA trade with Kevin Durant going to Phoenix. I don't know. I'm going to take some of this composure.
Yeah, that's what you need. All right.
Kevin Durant going to the Phoenix Suns. We talked about it from the Nets perspective. Let's talk about it from the Suns perspective. And I'm going to say this, Rob. The Suns, if healthy, that's always a question mark, right?
They got two issues there.
If healthy, though, so you may not see it the way I do them.
I don't.
If healthy, they should win the Western Conference. And if they do not win, at least win the West. I'm not going to go as far as to say win it all yet.
That's fair. Okay.
But they should. They can win it all, too. But I'm just going to talk about the West right now. If they don't win the West, if healthy, it is a colossal failure. All we've talked about all season long is how wide open the West is, how there are no great teams in the West. Boston, Milwaukee, heck, when they were rolling, Brooklyn, all teams that were better than anybody in the West. Denver's got Jokic, and then, okay. The Clippers are good, but can they stay healthy? They got guys in and out of the lineup. New Orleans, Memphis, Sacramento, too young. Memphis is immature and young now. The Lakers obviously don't have it together. Golden State's been playing uncharacteristically poor all season long.
All year long,
It is
Chris.
wide open. And heck, Phoenix, Rob, won 9 of its last 11 before this trade. So they were starting to get healthy and starting to play great basketball without Kevin Durant. And now you throw him in? No. Other than health injuries, there is no reason they should not at least win the West.
I agree with you, but my issue is the reason of you having to even say that. The reason that you have to put a qualifier in front of that is because of Chris Paul's injury history, Chris, and Kevin Durant's injury history.
Right.
Kevin Durant went to the Brooklyn Nets and signed a free agent contract injured. Injured.
You knew he was sitting out a whole year.
A whole year.
Right.
You still signed him and gave him loot, Chris.
Right.
You didn't say come back in a year. You signed him.
Paid him to rehab.
And now what? He's going to Phoenix injured.
Right. He's been injured every year.
Every year.
Since he's been with the Nets. Yep.
And this is what I'm trying to tell you is
well, that I agree with that.
Yeah, it's just those are the two reasons.
So you got you got health. What's the second reason?
No, that's one of them. They have the talent, but the health. I feel like they're kind of like the Lakers. Like you always say, if everybody's healthy, the Lakers can make a run. Oh, they got AD, they got and all that stuff, and LeBron. But deep down, you can't pencil them in for the rest of the season. And I don't think you could do the same thing for the Suns.
Yeah, I mean, of course, injuries are always a factor with every team, but they're more with them.
And can I say this
than
too?
Anybody else.
Here's the other one,
or more with them, the Lakers and the Clippers, more than other teams in the West.
And the Chris Paul factor. Chris Paul has had nothing but a slew of tremendous teammates, and they haven't been able to win. And I'm not saying it's all his fault. But he's been a part. Some of them have. Yep. Common denominator, Chris. Has he not?
Poor Chris. He has not. He's come up short in many times. I'm gonna give it. I've said it. Look, the pressure is on Durant and Chris Paul. Durant. This is actually a very great potential for Durant to redeem himself. Right? I don't say redeem, but when he went to Brooklyn, the thinking was, he's got to show and wants to show that he can win it without a super stacked team. This is an opportunity to do that, Rob, because the team is stacked, but we all know they would not win the West or the championship without him.
No, there's no doubt about it.
So you've got a team that's very capable of winning it, and you could prove you can win it without Golden State and get tons of credit.
No, and you're right. And Chris Paul has never been able to get over the hump. So you will be carrying him over the hump.
Right.
Don't you remember when Devin Booker and them, they were saying he's the next Kobe? Remember they were up 2-0 in the finals?
Oh, yeah.
Where'd that go? We let that stop, right?
Well,
and I mean, he's a young star player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's not but Durant if he elevates those guys, you would take a look at him and say, see, look what he got
it'd be
done.
great for him. And getting back to Chris Paul, though, Rob, Lob City. Lob City was wildly talented. Never got past the second round. And some of it was injuries, including injuries to him. Then he goes to Houston. And they, in his first year, have Durant and Golden State down 3-2. Chris gets hurt. They lose the series. Then the next year, Rob, 2-2, it's knotted, and Durant gets hurt in Game 5. And you lose the next 2 games, you and James Harden, to Clay and Steph. And then he goes to Phoenix, Rob. They're up 2-0 in the finals against Milwaukee. Like you said, everybody thinks this is his shiny moment.
You remember that?
And they fizzle. And then last year, when they had the best record in the West, and they just fell apart, including Chris, against Luka Doncic and the Mavericks. And that is his history. And Chris is viewed by many as a top 5 point guard. Well, let's look at the other 4, Rob. Magic championships. Steph championships. Oscar Robertson, 1 championship. Isaiah Thomas, 2 championships. Chris, none. And has had, as you said, a slew of great teammates.
If you went down and listed all the great players he played with, there's not enough room on the internet. I mean, it's just...
So this is his chance.
Right.
And I get it. He's older. A lot of people give him that excuse because he's 37, but he's still giving you 14 points, 8 assists a game. And we're not looking for him to score. We're not looking for him to drop 20 points. Durant is one of the best scorers we've ever seen. Booker is one of the best scorers in the league. DeAndre Ayton will also give you 18 to 20. Chris just has to orchestrate. Chris just has to not fall apart. And so I do think some pressure's on him, Rob.
No, I agree. I do. People will look at it and say, how didn't they win? What did Chris Paul not do, or what happened? You know what I mean? I agree. It is Chris Paul, mainly Chris, because he's got another great player that he needed to give himself a chance to win.
And I'll say this about Durant. And I would be fine with seeing Phoenix win the championship. And, Rob, if they meet Boston, and Boston right now I'd say is probably the favorite in the East. Chris Middleton just hasn't been the same in the few games he's played. Brooklyn obviously is done.
Right.
Philly is Philly, but I think Boston's a favorite. We talked about it, Rob. Last year, they sunned Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and particularly Durant, in that people would always say, well, what would they do in the 80s with Durant? They never seen nothing like Durant in the 80s or the 90s. They couldn't guard him. Well, you know what they do? They do what Boston did and then some. Get physical with him.
Right.
Bang him up a little bit. And Durant, I've never seen Durant struggle like that. Durant was shut down. I mean, he's still got numbers, but was inefficient, struggled badly, turning the ball over left and right. And so if they meet Boston in the finals, he can't let that happen again. He cannot let that happen again. And I'll say this on his behalf. Steve Nash wasn't helping him out.
No, not
he
at all.
wasn't exactly running any sets that might get a brother a little breathing room. And I think Phoenix obviously would do that. And they got more weapons that Boston would have to pay attention to and account for. So I think he'd fare better. But that's just something I'm going to be very interested in seeing if indeed it comes down to those two teams in the finals. But, yeah, Rob, I think they should win the West.
They should. On paper, they absolutely. If they don't, something went terribly wrong. Somebody got terribly injured. Something went amok, Chris, right? I mean, it's just no way of looking at it, especially when you look at the other teams. Even the defending Warriors, who have just been a shell of themselves this year.
Yeah, if the Warriors could get it together, I think they could challenge them. But they haven't shown us anything yet. So
and they can't, they still struggle on the road. And, you got to be able to win some games on the road.
Yeah.